dangerous cities and towns in their own home states. But, Caddy, David makes the great point that a lot of people around the table are making over the past several weeks, that most Americans feel like things are too dangerous. I keep going back to that Washington Post poll that was just taken a couple of months ago. 91% of residents in Washington, D.C. say Washington's too dangerous. Violence is too dangerous. People of color, black residents of Washington, those struggling, working class, and others are the most likely to say Washington is too violent. The rich and the white in this Washington Post poll were the least likely to say Washington was too violent. So I don't know. It just seems to me the Democrats have to start by doing what David just said. I mean, acknowledge Americans don't want to hear about crime stats when they feel uncomfortable walking in the streets, or their children walking in the streets of their own cities.
Yeah, I mean, every country in the world has a lot of crime. The big difference in America is that there are a lot of guns out on the street, and that the combination of crime and guns makes people feel very insecure. If you're being carjacked and you know the guy has a gun, it exponentially raises your risk factor compared to if you're in another country and somebody stops and tries to steal a car and they don't have a gun. I mean, that's just the way it is. And you're right. It's the poorer areas, often the black areas of this city, that have the most crime, but that's not where we're seeing the troops going down. They're wandering around Georgetown, my neighborhood. They're wandering around the National Mall. I think there's another showbiz element to this too, Joe, which is here are the troops in Washington ostensibly to tackle the crime, but there is a big ICE factor going on in this city at the same time. If you go to some schools in some neighborhoods in Washington, D.C. at the moment, the parents are very anxious about taking their children to school. There's a whole community system that's grown up around it. It's very efficient with phones. You've got kind of watchers, community activists on the pavement watching, kind of whistling, literally whistling to mothers as they leave their house with their holding their 5-year-old children's hands to say, OK, you can come out now and we'll make sure you're safe to the next block to get to school. Oof. That's also what's happening in this city at the moment. There's a lot of ICE raids happening. And I think that's actually maybe the real story of this crackdown. And some of the National Guard element of that is for the show of the cameras to show that Donald Trump is being tough on crime. Well, but what you're not seeing is the fear that people are feeling about taking their children to school. Right.
And I mean, and what you're not seeing are enough of these troops in Southeast Washington and other areas where the people desperately need and want more uniformed officers. But Caddy brings up children going to school. That really quickly, we'll get to it later on. But Jonathan, that brings up one of the most compelling stories of the weekend, and that is Guatemalan children shipped onto a plane, and then a federal judge stops it and says, I want to be very clear here. The children are not to leave. The government wouldn't respond to her. She very, very direct, saying, don't even try to suggest there was any ambiguity here. No ambiguity. Get those children off the plane until we have a hearing.
Yeah, no, the judge couldn't have been clearer. We'll see how the government responds. They have been in defiance of some court orders to this point. But back to connecting all this together, there is a sense in terms of Chicago and the National Guard. We've raised the idea that the president doesn't have the authority to do so. But no decision has been made, but I've been told by some in the administration that the Guard will be deployed to safeguard ICE raids, to therefore provide security to ICE agents, much like that was the pretense in Los Angeles.
Just Los Angeles to protect federal buildings, yes, and to protect federal agents.
That's what they did in L.A. The thought is that might be how they try to have the bank shot to get some of these Guard troops to Chicago. That pretense would, first of all, would accelerate these ICE raids, which I know many in the community do not want, but secondly, would allow the president to have a show of force, have his troops in the city with a perhaps more legally justifiable means. That's being considered.
And the ICE raids, of course, being done by people wearing masks. Yep. They're terrifying, and they are terrifying communities across the country. There's no question. I haven't seen one video of an ICE raid where people are clapping for it. Have you? No. It's terrifying, and it's not what the president promised. The Washington Post's David Ignatius, thank you very much. Coming up, a rough debut for Bill Belichick at the University of North Carolina as the coach with the most Super Bowl wins got blown out last night. We'll dig into that and the other headlines from a big weekend in sports. Morning Joe will be right back.
Can't you see the sunshine? Can't you just feel the moonshine?